Howdy, howdy, and welcome back. It is officially Workshop Wednesday, and today we actually interrupted. We actually switched out the topic because this has been such a big deal working with preview mode. So we're going to dedicate this week's Workshop Wednesday to preview mode and understanding preview mode and Tag Manager. And if that has frustrated you, because it's relatively new change that's coming through. So if it's been a frustration for you, I think you're going to like today's workshop. All right, before we get too far into this, of course, my name is Chris Mercer. I actually do go by Mercer, and I am the co-founder here at measurementmarketing.io. Welcome, happy to have you here. Maybe you found us through the podcast and talks that we do here at measurementmarketing.io, and we're always interested in new podcasts to be on. So you can go to measurementmarketing.io's homepage to find out if you want to get myself or one of the other Measurement Marketing team members on there. We'd be happy to help you out. Maybe you came through some of the platforms that we work with, like CXL Institute, the Social Media Examiner, Digital Marketer, or Measure Summit. Maybe you are already a member, whether a free toolbox member over at measurementmarketing.io or a part of the Measurement Marketing Academy. However you found us, we love having you here, and thanks for being a part of Workshop Wednesday. Of course, our job is to help people like you to figure out how to use all of these fun tools. And in particular, today we're going to talk about Tag Manager, and even more detailed, we're going to talk about Tag Manager and the preview mode that is in Tag Manager. And of course, this is a new change as of this recording. Tag Manager got a brand new preview mode that's confused a lot of people. So we're going to talk about how to use it and everything else as we go through. All right, now, of course, we're going to hit this each and every Wednesday, which we do. It's important. So Measurement Marketing Framework, you should be using this. First, you plan, which is all about the questions you're trying to answer, the information you need to collect to get those answers, and then ultimately what actions you're going to take based upon the answers that you get. Then you build. Now, in that building process is where Tag Manager is definitely going to live, and you're going to use Tag Manager to collect the information that you're trying to get the answers to, right? So you can answer your questions, and you need to debug. And so that's really the step that we're going to focus on today is in this building step and how to use the debug in Google Tag Manager. Of course, once it's all up and running, then you start building your reports, your dashboards, all that fun stuff that give you the answers you're looking for so you can take the actions you want to take. Then you can start to actually forecast your near-term results, and ultimately, you can measure against your forecast, and that'll tell you where to optimize because you'll know what's working and what's not. That's the whole measurement marketing framework. And of course, today's workshop really focuses on that building pillar. So we can dive into that. Now, with all of these workshops, especially with this one, just pick up one new thing because there's a lot that we're going to cover in the preview mode. It's very different, especially if you've used Tag Manager at all in the past. It's very different. And so we're going to explain this kind of from the ground up as we go through, you and I. And then as you pick up one new thing that you want to practice, that's what I'd recommend. So, okay, you know, maybe you don't get every little detail that we talk about here. Maybe not everything makes sense, but something will. Practice that. Then you come back to this, and then you'll watch it again. And then it'll pick up another one thing, and another one thing, and another one thing. And all of a sudden, you'll be a master when it comes to this stuff. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get officially underway. Beyond Basics, working with the Google Tag Manager preview mode. Now, we're going to go ahead and dive right in, but we're not going to dive into Google Tag Manager. Instead, I thought, well, you know what, let's explain kind of where this whole thing is and how it works and, you know, why this even exists. So when you're in Tag Manager, and I've got this little window set up here. So we get a little fake window with Tag Manager. You go to tagmanager.google.com, you start playing with Tag Manager, you're setting it all up, and of course you've made some changes and you want to test. So in order to do that, that's where preview comes up. Now, in the past, what used to happen with tools like this is there'd be like this little bar that would pop, this little window pane that would come up, and it was a little separate window pane that you could, you know, pull around. And this showed you all of the stuff that was happening in Tag Manager. So it was like Tag Manager's version of everything happening on the page behind it. This actually opened up in something called an iframe. And this is how it worked. And this worked like this for years. But the challenge with that is that tagmanager.google.com, in this case, let's say google.com as a domain, has to have a connection, in this case, to measurementmarketing.io, in this case, our site, right? We're just sort of playing along like we're debugging our site here. And I'll show you this for real in just a few moments, but I wanted to understand the concept first. So there's a permission issue, and it used to be that you could do what they call third-party cookies, which was google.com, which is a third party to measurementmarketing.io. It's a separate company, can come to measurementmarketing.io and it can read cookies. It can do stuff. That's third-party cookies. Well, those have really fallen out of favor over the years because people have abused them. And so now browsers, including Chrome, including Google Chrome, really are starting to restrict those. Now, Google knows this, obviously, because they're one of the part doing this. Like, they understand third-party cookies are just not going to be something they can use anymore. So instead of using third-party cookies, they need to use something called a first-party cookie. Now, the big difference here, the first-party cookie just means, in this case, that measurementmarketing.io is the first party. It's the cookie it's the site that sets cookies, and it can read cookies that it sets. Like, that's kind of how it goes. And so third parties can't get onto the site and do things that the site doesn't want them to do. That's kind of how this whole thing works. So what did Google do to solve this problem? And this is where the preview mode came up to. This is the biggest reason why this happened. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And what they've basically done is they've created a third interface thing here. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see what I'm typing here. But this is now called Tag Assistant. And so the way to think about this, and this is when you're doing your debugs, and I'll zoom back out. So the way to think about this is you now have this three platforms that are coming through. But what's happening is you've got Tag Manager over here. Then you've got this debug platform that's over here. And then, of course, you've got the site that you're debugging. So this is kind of what's happened. It kind of looks like this. I'm just going to group these together really quickly, make it a little easier for us to move around. So it kind of looks like this. So Tag Manager is sort of connected to this Tag Assistant as a platform, this new platform. This is the new preview mode. And then your site, the site that you're debugging, is also sending information to this now preview mode, to this platform here. And because you have this platform that's connected, not quite connected, but should be connected, because you have this platform that's connected here, this is where your preview mode is. And it's getting these details from these two different things. But what's nice about this is this solves that first-party cookie challenge because it's tagassistant.google.com. Your site's sending information to it, and it's controlled by Google, and it's all on here. Tag Manager sending details to it. It's all controlled by Google here. So it just makes it a lot easier to see what's going on when you're previewing. And that's how I want you to think about this. This is not a preview mode kind of thing where you just like, oh, you turn on this feature of Google Tag Manager, and now this feature pops on your site like it used to. Back in the old days, that's how it used to be. But now it's you turn on the ability for Tag Manager to connect with this new platform, which is this debugging platform called tagassistant.google.com. And this is the debugging platform in the middle here. And then that debugging platform will then connect through channels, little channels, what they call it here, little pathway, they connect to the site. So then you have Tag Manager connecting in, you've got the site connecting in, and Tag Assistant is stitching together the dots. It connects the two different parties together. So this is how this preview mode works with Google Tag Manager. Now I'm going to show you what this is as we actually go through it here. So I'm going to pull this aside, and then we're going to pop into Tag Manager and show you what this actually looks like. So I've got Tag Manager pulled up. I have our demo site pulled up, our fancy little demo site. So if I want to debug some changes, let's say I made a bunch of changes here. I have 8 different changes that I've made, and I want to test those. I want to see if this is going to work. Well, the first thing I need to do is I need to be able to preview it. I want to be able to test it before I publish. Now, pro tip, with preview mode, sometimes you have to have a published container. So even if you just start out in the very beginning with like an empty container, I would publish that container so that the container is live on your site. So you have to have a published container when you're first starting out. Super important. You don't want to have an empty one. Just have a published container to start. But then once it's published, we can preview and connect the dots. And so we have to create, remember, this is just Tag Manager. This is just our site. What's missing? Well, what's missing is Tag Assistant. What's missing is that debugging platform. So how do we get to that? Now, theoretically, maybe we could just type it in, but we don't really have to because we can click on the preview mode and preview now. This little button pops open Tag Assistant. It pops open this Tag Assistant. So now I've got Google Tag Manager. I have that Tag Assistant, which was the go-between between the Tag Manager and the site, and of course, my site. So first things first, it opened up the platform, this debugging platform called Tag Assistant. Now it needs Tag Assistant wants to know, all right, well, Tag Manager just came in and said, hey, I want to debug something. And this is what this is telling you here. Tag Manager with this container ID wants to debug something, but it needs to know the other half. What is the website it's supposed to debug? And that's what this URL is. It's the URL you are trying to debug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our favorite character page. And I'm going to say, for sake of example, that I want to debug things that are happening on this page. So I click into this, I grab this URL, and we come back into Tag Assistant, and I tell Tag Assistant, this is the page, right? So don't think about this like a website. Think about this as the page where you're starting your debug process, right? Starting the debug journey. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on start, but notice this is here and it's checked. For most sites that you work with, this is going to be just fine. If you happen to click on start and it doesn't work, where your preview doesn't work, and you'll see what that looks like in just a second, then just come back to this, uncheck this, and click start again. But 9 times out of 10, my guess is this is going to be just fine. So you click this, and I'll show you what this does in just a moment here. But you click on start, and when you click on start, it says, okay, I am now connecting 2 sites. And what it just did, it did a couple of things here. First, so it connected the 2 sites. There's Tag Assistant, and there's measurementmarketing.io. Now remember, when we did our little Lucid chart here, we said there's Tag Assistant, there's measurementmarketing.io. Sorry, there's Tag Manager, I should say, down here, right? Tag Manager, there's measurementmarketing.io, and there's the Tag Assistant thing that's in the middle here, right? So we had those. That's exactly what it just did. So there was Tag Manager, there's Tag Assistant, which is now showing you that it's connected to measurementmarketing.io, which is the tab that opened up. Now, how do I know that this program opened up, this debugging platform opened it up? It's because of this right here. It says GTM_debug equals X. That's what that little checkbox did. It said, oh, I want to include a parameter. So that's what this does. And this is what technically connects the dots. It sets a cookie on there, but it's a first-party cookie so that everybody can be connected and you can see preview mode. That sort of activates everything. So that's one of the ways to do that. So now that I have that, it says, okay, we are officially working, right? We're connected. I'm just going to click out of that. You can click OK or just click out of that, and it goes away. Then I've got my Tag Manager up and running. Now, I do not need this page. Remember, this is the page I initially did. I just did this to get the URL, but I don't actually need this anymore. But I do, I obviously have to have this page because this is where all the debugging is. Now, how do I know that this page is being debugged? Because of this right down here. I also know that it's connected because of this. This is almost like a status report now. It's kind of out of the way so you can see most of the page you're working on and do all of your debugging, which is super useful. I love this. And I have a little color combination thing here where it's a little shape and it's a color blue. And you'll notice over here in Tag Assistant, there's that same little diamond, little blue diamond shape that's there. That is because I am using Tag Assistant, the Chrome extension called Tag Assistant, which is right up here. It's this thing here that I hope you're already using. And if you are not, you should install the Tag Assistant extension because it will make the preview mode easier. It will open it up in a browser tab like I just did. If you don't have the Tag Assistant, what happens is that this browser actually pops up in a brand new window and it can get a little harder to figure stuff out. So I'll just ask you to shortcut it, keep it a lot simpler because you know how we roll here at measurementmarketing.io. It's all about keeping things simple. Use the Tag Assistant extension. Make sure it's installed. Make sure you've got it active for incognito, especially if you're doing incognito and testing. That's just a little settings area in your Chrome to do that. But once you've got it set up, you got these little stitching. It sort of gives you little breadcrumbs. It shows you what's kind of going on. So here it's like, here's my favorite character. I see the blue diamond. I go to this page. It goes, oh yeah, blue diamond. Okay, I clearly know what I'm looking at here. And at this point, what Tag Assistant or the preview of Tag Assistant here, this debugging tool, see I'm on tagassistant.google.com, what this is doing is it's telling me what Tag Manager is doing. So the first thing, I can start with all these different events that happen in Tag Manager on this page load. And it says, okay, well, first there was a message, which was just a data layer push. I can click into here and I can see this is the data layer push that happened. Then the Tag Manager container was loaded, right? This is the data layer push that happened at that point. And then here were the tags that fired at that point. And then, and this is really cool, I can go into, and this is what you should do as well. So maybe this Tag Manager preview, this little page view thing, maybe it wasn't supposed to fire at this point. You're like, well, why did you fire? Well, I can click into it and it shows me, oh, here's why I fired, right? It's got all these details right here. And I can just click out of it when I'm done with that. So if I'm like, oh, why did this one fire? Here's why it fired. It shows me green check marks coming through. Now, as I go up, you can kind of go through each thing and it'll tell you what was fired, what was not fired. For example, if I come back into this page view pixel here for Facebook and I click on it, say, why didn't you fire? It says, well, I wasn't supposed to because I was only supposed to fire on the container loaded, not when character update happened, right? Just the triggers thing. So, but it tells us very, very, very quickly what was fired and why, which is why I love this preview mode. It's all at your fingertips here, which is really nice. You also have the variables. So you can see at this point in time what the variables were. Like in this case, the variable was Bugs Bunny. And at this point in time, right, I can come through what were the different variables. As I go to scroll, for example, I can come down. You can see the scroll at this point in time, the threshold was 50%. But at this point in time, it was 60%. So you can see as things change with your variables. So this is another incredibly useful thing with Google Tag Manager. You need to know, what did Tag Manager see? What did Tag Manager have access to? What could Tag Manager actually do something with at each individual point in time? Super, super important when you're coming through. Then we have the data layer. our old friend, the data layer. Now remember, if you're just starting out with Tag Manager, you probably haven't worked with the data layer all that much, but the data layer is something you will start working more and more with. The data layer is a place where you store information, variables and their values. It's kind of like a virtual filing cabinet that's on the page. And what's nice about the data layer is you can store a whole bunch of information back there. I think about it like potential information. Like this is the potential of stuff that you can get access to. The variables are the stuff you actually are putting in the hands of Tag Manager so it can do something with it. And then, of course, the tags are what Tag Manager is actually doing with everything as you go through, based upon the different triggers and everything else that you set up. But you can see everything coming through here. Now, if you've used Tag Manager for a period of time, at this point, it's kind of the same as compared to the old preview window. The only difference is it opens up in a brand new tab under tagassistant.google.com, this new debugging platform. It doesn't open up in your page and cover up a bunch of stuff. So those are wins already. But here's the coolest part of this new preview mode. I'm going to click on cart. Now, normally what would happen is when you go to a new page, and I'm just doing this as an example of a new page. When you go to a new page, the Tag Manager thing refreshes the preview. This was back in the old days. You just have a little window here. It would refresh and everything would start over. And you kind of lost all of your history of what you clicked on and why. So you'll see here, it still says debugger connected. So where is all that information? Well, all that information is in the Tag Assistant platform, in this new debugger platform. So where is it? Well, here, this is where I was with this first stage, right? Who's your favorite character? But watch as I scroll up. Look at all this other stuff. It continues on the journey. And that shows me I'm on the cart now. So it's really nice about this. And I'm just going to minimize these because you can see, I can see all the details of this. Or I can say, I'm done with that step. Show me the details of this step in my customer journey, in my user journey, in the journey where I'm trying to debug something coming through. Maybe I'm trying to debug some sort of e-commerce transaction. So I would continue on. I say, well, I'm on the cart. But then what happens when I go to the shop? Let's say I'm going to go into the shop and I go to add to cart and I just sort of mimic this process. Now notice how fast I can get through this. Preview mode is still running. And I can go to view my cart, and now I can actually see a product in the cart, and I can say, okay, well, now did my cart work? Well, what's really nice about this, and I'm going to minimize these so you can see the stages and steps. Here's where I started. So here's your favorite character page. So you can see that up here. Then here was the cart, and you can see the pages that we're on at the very top here. So first it's like, I'm on this URL. Then I was on this URL. Then I was on this URL. Then I was back on this URL. And I can say, well, does the data layer have what it needs? Because it should. It should have some e-commerce information back there. Let's say I was hypothetically doing that. Oh, look, there's my e-commerce information. So now I can verify that all of my stuff is working the way I want it to, and maybe set up triggers and tags, whatever else. I can get into the tags and say what tags were fired at this step. So these were the tags that were fired at this particular step. And then I can say, well, how did that happen? I can dive into this, and I can see all the different stuff that was coming through. And this is just the normal preview stuff that you got used to with Google Tag Manager as you start to use it. It tells you at this point in time, here's what happened or did not happen. In this case, nothing happened. No tags were fired at this point in time. At the DOM ready, nothing was fired. At character update, nothing was fired. At container loaded, these things fired. Right? And so it tells you at scroll depth, this fired. And at scroll depth over here, this also fired. The difference is I can come in here, I can click on values, and I can very quickly see, like in this case of an event for Google Analytics, scroll 50%. And always, 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 when you TBV, you don't just trust what Tag Manager is saying, right? Or in this case, Tag Assistant, but you come in and you would ultimately say, okay, well, there's the click, I'm coming through, and I can go through and I can see there's my scrolls, so I can see events coming through, right? So you always TBV with the platform itself that you're sending information to. And in this example, we're sending information to Google Analytics, into our little demo account there. So we can see that as well. And it tells us why. It says, oh, here's why I did that. So it's just this stuff, what I like, this is a fairly recent upgrade for preview, and I really like the direction that they're going. Now, there are a couple of nuances that you want to watch out for. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up one of the biggest ones, which is when you crisscross domains. We have, we're doing cross-domain measurement, and it's important if you have a customer journey where you're maybe using different platforms like we do. We use Infusionsoft as our cart system. And so if I go to Infusionsoft and I have an order form there, and I'm going to check really quickly here because I don't know. Let me see if I have sometimes I have a little fake account set up with this, but I don't. Actually, you know what? I know I don't in this one. So I'm going to flip over to our real live production. So we're going to open up a different window that's set up for Tag Manager. And this is going to be for our production site. So I'm going to bring over, notice I'm not in incognito anymore. So it's a whole separate instance. We're going to go to measurementmarketing.io. And in measurementmarketing.io, we're going to pull this up. And right now, am I in preview mode? Okay, right now, am I in preview mode? The answer is no, I'm not. How do I know that? Because there's not that little window here that says, oh, it's in preview mode. Now, could I try to get preview mode turned on? Sure. How do I do that? I go to preview. So let me make sure I'm in the right container, which I am. I go to preview. And of course, that's going to pull up Tag Assistant. And Tag Assistant says, okay, great. I need to go to preview mode. What page should I start on? And it's already going to go to, it's defaulting to this page. That's what I had up before, which is fine. So I'm going to start the journey here. So I'm going to click on Start. And I'm going to keep my little debug signal. So what should happen? A little pop quiz here. Can I close this out and still have preview mode work? And the answer is yes. Why? Because when I click on Start, this page is going to load up, this URL, the specific URL is going to load up in a new browser window. Sorry, in a new browser tab. Why a new browser tab? Because I'm using Tag Assistant. I have Tag Assistant installed as an extension. That's what causes it to open in this new window. So I'm going to click on Start. And look at that. Totally works. So it opens up as a new window. And it's got the little GTM underscore debug equals X. And I've got my debugger connected. You see this down here in the little window. Now I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here so we can see this. And you see this gets a little bit bigger here, but the debugger connected. And it's showing me in this case, I have a nice little orange diamond. So if I come into Tag Assistant, it shows orange diamond, right? So again, click on continue to get rid of that. Orange diamond, perfect. So there's the stage and step that I'm on. Now, as I come through, I go into, let's say, the Measurement Marketing Academy. And if you were interested in purchasing the Measurement Marketing Academy, you would have to obviously go to our cart system. Now, our cart system, so currently we're on measurementmarketing.io, but our cart system, and I'm going to scroll very quickly here just to get to the bottom of where I want to be. So our cart system, if I came in and said, okay, I want to go ahead and, buy 6 months, get 6 months free, I click on Start, what will happen now is I will go to a completely different page, or excuse me, a completely different domain. So now I'm on Academy Starter Annual. This is the cart, but really it's this that matters. I'm on a completely different domain. I'm no longer on measurementmarketing.io. And so what is this telling me? It's saying, well, there's no debugger found here, right? There is no connection. It's lost its connection here. So what I need to do, and this is the biggest difference with this platform. See what it says lost connection? It doesn't have a connection to Infusionsoft.app. So what I need to do is, all you do is just say open debugger, and it'll open this up. So I'm going to hit on open debugger. And when I do that, you see this little Infusionsoft.app. It's because I have this, I'd already set up. Otherwise, it would just say, hey, what URL do you want to put in? You put the URL of your cart page or whatever it was, right? A shopping cart page is what I did. And just to show you that, if I click on, I'm going to click into this here. There's our little debug. So you can see this is starting our cart page now and says gtm.debug equals X. Okay, and it says debugger connected. So I have all of that connected still coming through. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to X out of this. And I'm going to continue here, right? So now I've X'd out. So I've got my tag manager on still. I've got Tag Assistant, though now it says it's not connected. And I'm going to X out of this as well. And you see here it says Infusionsoft.app. It's kind of gray, and this one's kind of blue. So what happens is blue means it's actively ready to debug stuff. So if I come into measurementmarketing.io, which we're about to do, and then I'll show you the connection between the cross domains as you go through. So as I come into measurementmarketing.io, it automatically says debugger connecting, and then it should, with a moment of time, oops, says no debugger found. Well, let's go figure out why. I'm going to click into here because I'm not in the debugger. Okay, so now we're going to connect it. And this I will tell you, this is a slightly annoying thing for me, is the fact that it's constantly trying to open up new tabs. I get why it's doing that, but then I have this duplicate tab opened up already. So I'm going to try a little shortcut here just to show you what's possible. So I'm going to click on continue. Now I've basically shut off my window, so it's going to give a couple seconds to realize the window is shut off. It goes, whoop, I've lost the connection, which is true. So what I'm going to do now, and this is, I think, is a shortcut I'm going to start doing quite a bit. So I'm going to come in here and say GTM debug equals X. So this little parameter. So I'm just going to type this in, which should turn on my debugger. Let's find out. So I come into this URL. There's my debugger connecting. Let's see if it actually works or not. Nope, it's not going to do it. So you're going to have to always debug. All right. Now, I think this will be one of those things they probably will work through and fix a little differently because it's open the debugger, or I can go back to the debugger, close out, come back in, turn it back on. It's going to open up as another new tab. So there's going to be, I think that stuff's a little annoying, flat out. Like, I think you would agree too. There's going to be a lot of extra tabs. So you got to keep your tabs under control here, or your windows under control, because it can get really confusing if you don't. Close out the ones you don't need when you're doing preview. I think from a workflow perspective, I'll probably figure out a little better ways to do this. But right now, that's what it's supposed to be. So I go to continue, and I can click through the pages. There's my little connected. I'm a circle now, a red circle. And I can see my little red circle page. Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go into, I'm going to close out of this one here. But when I'm exiting it, because I've got this page open, it knows there's a connection to the page, right? So before I just closed this page out and it broke the connection. Here, I'm closing it on this side. I click this X here, and it says, well, do you want to stop debugging? And yeah, I do want to stop debugging currently because I'm going to show you how to turn on the other domain here, the Infusionsoft domain. So you have to have both of them turned on. But this is so important. It should be, this needs to be checked because I want it to keep on standby. So I'm not like permanently stopping debugging. I'm just sort of temporarily stopping debugging, right? So I want to keep the domain enabled for debugging, which is what keeps this connection going. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say close the debugger now. So before it was stop debugging. Instead, I just want to close the debugger. Notice how that changes. So whenever you click here, it should say close debugger, not stop debugging. You're just closing the debugger. And I know that's kind of confusing terms. I'll probably get better at that. Then I already have, I've created this earlier. This is my Infusionsoft order form for the Academy starter page. I'm like, okay, well, we want to turn this on because I want to be able to debug things, right? That's all this is. So now I already had that set up earlier. And if you didn't, when you just click on add domain, it's the same thing. Type in the URL. That's all it is, right? Very simple. So in fact, let me just show you this. I'm going to do this from the start. So I'm just going to copy this out so we have it. Now I'm going to show you that how simple this is. I'm going to delete it, right? So it's totally gone. So now you go to add domain. I would put in the URL. I'm going to keep the little debug thing, and I clicked on start. Now what should happen? What should happen is it opens up a brand new browser tab with the Infusionsoft order form, and it's going to say GTM debug equals X because of this little thing here. That's what should happen. We always think about that. Always what should happen before you do something. It'll help you with debugging. So now we're going to click on start, and connecting the window should pop up my window. There's my window being popped open. Great. Okay, so now I've got my debugger connected, in this case, to Infusionsoft. Now, because it's the Infusionsoft order form, if I come over, I click on continue, what I should see is I've got my Infusionsoft order form right there, which I do, right? I just clicked on this main step here to see that this URL is there. Okay, so far so good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out of this. So I'm exiting out, but I'm going to close it. I don't want to stop debugging, right? I don't want to stop debugging because that disconnects the connection. So I need to click this because I have to keep Infusionsoft.app enabled for debugging. So basically, I've turned on two domains now. We had the original measurementmarketing.io domain that was turned on and enabled for debugging, even though we closed it. And then I have the Infusionsoft.app that's going to be enabled, even though we're about to close it. And this is now going to show us two blue colors here. The blue means it's enabled for debugging, so it's still ready to get a connection. So now what we're going to do is I am going to come back in here and I'm going to start my customer journey because I want to test the cross domain. I want to test going from measurementmarketing.io to the cart page. If I just wanted to start at the cart page, I could just click here and start from the cart page and do debugging if that's what I needed. But I need to see the crisscross between this domain, measurementmarketing.io, and the Infusionsoft.app domain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click onto this block. Now, when I do this, what should happen? Well, what should happen is it goes to measurementmarketing.io because that's the URL that I told it to go to. So it's not about the domain, but it's about the URL, specific URL. So it should go to the home page, and it should open in this tab because that's with the little debug thing. It says equals X, right? So I'm going to click onto this. It says it's connecting. There's my tab switching over. Now it's my GTM debug equals X. There's my new debug connected, a little red circle. Now, what should I see? If I click back on Tag Assistant, I should see that little window that says you're connected. And when I close that, I should see that I'm on the home page. So I click on Continue, says I'm connected. I click on this, looks like I'm on the home page, which is perfect. Now, watch what happens. I'm going to go to Products. I'm going to go to Measurement Marketing Academy. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. So we're just going to scroll down. We're going to go to the cart page. So learn about analytics and tag manager and strategy and data studio and reporting and all this fun stuff. I just can't wait. So we're going to click on Get Started. So we're going to go Purchase. And so now I go to Get Started, and now this loads up. It says debugger connecting, and with any luck, it should say connected. Oh, it's saying no debugger found, which is not what it should do at all. So this might be a little buggy. Let's just find out. I don't see Infusionsoft connection being updated. You know what's funny? I actually have a video on YouTube that shows this totally working. So I think this is going to be a temporary glitch. So because this totally works, I don't know why it's not working right now. Because what it should do is show me, so here's my first page with a home page, here's the other page, and then what I should be seeing is our link, let me just see if I do this again, is our link into Infusionsoft.app, which should be working just fine. I don't honestly know why it's not. But let's go through. This is why I love doing these live. So there's my debugger, clicking into here. And I know this individual page, and this is the thing, is I don't really want to, I mean, yes, I guess honestly, if as a measurement marketer, if I had to figure out how to do this right now and I had to get the things done for our company, this is how I would do it. I'd be like, well, I guess I can't, see that. So I'm just going to have to come through and start with the page itself going through. But I just know that you don't have to do that. And I'm not 100% certain at this point why that's no longer working, because it was. Which brings me to a final conclusion. I'm going to wrap this up. I will put that YouTube video link in the comments of this YouTube video, so you can see it, because it definitely works. And I'm going to have to go back and see if there's something that maybe I did differently. But it should, what this is supposed to do, which is where I actually really liked it, because you can see this history of stuff, including different domains as you were going crisscrossing through. And it's driving me a little nuts now that it is not wanting to do that. Let me just try this. I'm going to go back to measurementmarketing.io. Maybe this is what I did. So I'm going to go into, well, let's just go to the home page. It's fine. So if I do this, it should still stay connected. And because it was enabled, we didn't turn it off. Yeah, stay nobody ever found. I think there's a little glitch going on right now, because that was just finding it, and it would say, oh, measurementmarketing.io, I'm connected to that. But it is clearly not finding it as we're going through, and I cannot tell you why. So short of me putting in this little debug thing, which I'm going to also try to do, GTM debug underscore debug equals X. This is why this is beyond basics, because beginners, there's no way you'd be able to figure this thing out, sadly, at least not at this level. Because cross-domain measurement's a little bit more advanced. I'm turning on the debugger here, so that should say debugger connecting. Let's see if that's even going to work. Something else is going on. Nope. All right, so much for that. Though, interestingly enough, we have some pages, and it seems to be connected. So I'm going to say this is glitchy at this point, because I know that this totally worked on this other YouTube video that I did, and this was literally like 2 days ago. So I'm going to put this link in there so you can at least see it, and then say, okay, well, I don't know why it's not working right now. I'm going to take a little offline. Again, this is why I love doing this with no net, meaning live for all of you here in YouTube, because this is what it's like in the real world. Sometimes they just don't go. I get frustrated by courses that are too heavily edited sometimes, because this is what it's like, and you got to get used to figuring this stuff out. So here's what I would really do in the real world is come in, and I would have to set up separately now and just do what I did before, which is, okay, I'm going to go look at, see, it keeps losing the connection. I do not know why. I think there's a timeout issue. I know for a fact, because I've been looking at this thing like every day, there's new bug fixes that are being pushed through, and timeout was one of those bugs where it would time out, and because I didn't turn it off, it just stopped working here. So I think there's another, my guess is on Monday it was working, and now they broke it again, so they're probably going to fix it. But that's okay. Regardless, what I would do is if I was trying to figure out what's going on the Infusionsoft page and trying to debug events happening on that cart, I would click it. It's going to switch it in the page itself. And then it should anyway. Let's see. Now saying it can't do that. So let's see. Start. Connecting to the window should pull it back up. I'm just going to close this out entirely. Oh, look at this. I'm going to say definitely buggy. Let's try to retry this again. I've never actually seen the retry window. Yay, us. There we go. So I just had to close out that window. Now it's connected. And then I would come through in the tag assistant and say, okay, well, now I can debug at least that order form. But I know for a fact you can crisscross domains because I've done it. And it's recorded, fortunately, or you wouldn't believe me probably. But I will go ahead and link to the YouTube video so at least you can see it and say, well, this is how it's supposed to work. And then you and I will play together. So I am sure this is not the last preview video we will be working on, because this is such a new tool. This is literally not even a week old yet, this new preview window. And this preview platform. But I like the direction they're headed despite frustrations like this. So if you have frustrations, I get it. I do. Everybody does. The entire world right now does. But Google's working on it, and they're making this thing better and better and better. The hard part for me was initially realizing, like, oh, this is just a third-party platform now that they're building to debug stuff. And it's called Tag Assistant, because that's all it's for. It's just for debugging tags, as far as I can tell. So, and I think that's kind of cool. I think that's a good direction. And ultimately, when you start doing more advanced stuff like GA 4.0, you have access to everything else. We're not going to have time to go into this today, but this is like GA 4.0, or GA 4, I guess they call it now. It used to be called App and Web, same thing. Just GA 4 now, yet another name. But it, gives you details, and you can flip through and keep things nice and clean as you're going through. I think that's awesome to be able to see that stuff. I like the fact you can do history, even if now it's only on the same domain, I think tomorrow it might be back to multiple domains, which is how it used to work. So I'm sure that'll come back. And it becomes really useful. It becomes really, really interesting. And you can also do things like if you do mobile, right? Coming into mobile, you can inspect, go into your mobile view, refresh that page, and then it should preview and keep its own little debugger going through, like in theory anyway. So I'm gonna do this real quick. It should be working here. So it's connected. There's my other page on mobile, right? Whatever the mobile version was, and if it was a completely different page, it would show everything coming through. So there's some really cool things you can do. Iframes, same difference, right? You can do the same thing with iframes, just putting in the iframe and then the debug equals X to test out iframes. And again, the crisscross of the connections. You keep this active. You click on close debugger. This is exactly what I did. These were both supposed to remain blue. This one timed out just now, which it should not have done. So I think there is a timeout issue. They're trying to figure it out. I'm sure they're working it out. I'm positive there's a little bit of user error in here too, because this thing is new to everybody right now because they did not tell anybody they were doing this. They just did it. But anyway, hopefully this is at least was helpful. And if you're sticking on regular domains, which I am in this case, I'm just going to measuremarketing.io. And just for kicks, I'm going to turn off our mobile view and get out of this. I'm just really am curious as to see my little preview mode coming in. And then what I should see is this would flip over to Infusionsoft, and then this would show the Infusionsoft order form. Let's just see. I'm going to go a little bit faster. I don't know why it would be a timeout issue, but it might. So click on Get Started. And let's see. So that's going to load up Infusionsoft. There it is. Oh, you know what? There we go. Okay, timeout issue. So again, I think that's glitchy, but here you go. So this is exactly what I wanted to show you. So it goes into the Infusionsoft order form right there. So there you can see it. Actually did work. See, I don't have to put that other video in there. So there's measuremarketing.io homepage. Then I went to the Academy page. Then I went to the Infusionsoft order form, different domain, same container. Notice it flipped up here because now it's on Infusionsoft.app. And then if I flipped back to measuremarketing.io, like say a home page or a thank you page or something like that, I'm just gonna hit the back button in this case, but it will do a number 4. And it shows, okay, here's the 4. And then you'll also notice all these events start populating. Here's all the stuff that's coming through as it's loading. And remember, there's a slight delay because this is a third-party platform. This is Google's debugging platform. So the signals are being sent from Tag Manager and the site. They're being sent into this platform. So that's why it's a slight, nanoseconds delay as it fills up. That's normal though. Now that's what it's going to be. But you can see here, I went from measuremarketing.io to measuremarketing.io membership to the Infusionsoft order form to measuremarketing.io. So, and back. And now look at this little connection drop. So this is the thing I think is like a timeout. When you don't go onto the page for a little bit, it will time out. And then when you come back to the page, it should connect again. So that's, just sort of keep that in mind. I think that's what's happening a little bit. And they're working on timeout issues and things like this. This tool will just get better and better and better. But I am really excited for it as I go through. Final thing I wanted to show you is watch what happens when I hit Control click here. So it opens as a new tab. So now instead of just opening it in the tab like it was meant to do, I just hit Control click, open as a new tab. So notice this says a blue diamond here. Watch what it does here. Now it's got looked like a panda for half a second. I don't know what that is. So let's come over here. There's a little panda. So, hey, that's cute. So there's the panda. So it shows that it's actually in a completely separate tab as a panda now. And you can see the difference. It's like, here's the diamonds on the one tab. This is the panda on the other tab. I guess it's, the panda kills me. This is great. They all used to do just shapes, as you saw, and now pandas are in there. So, hey, go Google. I gotta love the sense of humor coming through. So now panda icons. But it's a really good visual way of showing, like, this is the one tab, here's the other tab, and it's all in the same window pane here. It's all in my same browser window because it's the Tag Assistant platform that I'm looking at, that it becomes my debug, which is, I think, really useful. So again, I like these changes. There's going to be some weirdness and frustration playing around with it. Expect that. Those of you who are Measure Marketing Academy members can use the Ask Instructor support system to show us what's going on, and we'll help you out as best we can with it. Obviously, everyone's learning this as we go, but we'll continue to keep up workshops and everything else in there as well. Also, it'll be part of the groups, so you'll have you can jump back in the Winner Circle groups and ask questions there. We'll have updates there as well for Academy members. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring this one officially to a close. Hope you learned at least a thing or two. Maybe the fact of just how to think through this new GTM mode is it's not just like you're turning it on in Tag Manager. You're actually going to a completely different third-party thing that Google's built called the Tag Assistant. tagassistant.google.com, which is now a preview platform. It's a whole separate platform just for debugging stuff. And you're connecting the dots between Tag Manager in this case and your website that you're connecting in. And those two things connected show up in that platform, and then you can see everything. And it works really well with a regular domain. There's a little bit of obviously, some timeout issues and things like that they are working on. But you did see toward the end of this, especially where that cross domain did work. It worked away exactly the way it was supposed to. As you went through. And now it even does panda icons. Now, if you want more workshops like this, next week's workshop is a strategy session. We rotate through different topics each time, and the category is next week is going to be a strategy session. So we're going to talk about how to guarantee better reports and dashboards. And this is, again, not just for the implementers that are out there, the people actually building reports and dashboards, but for those of you using reports and dashboards, and you want to get better ones. Because how many times have you gotten a dashboard or a report from somebody and you're like, I have no idea what to do with this? Well, there's a way you can actually guarantee that you don't have to run into that. So we're going to talk about that next week. If you want that, just make sure you click on subscribe here and make sure you get notified. So when we go live, you will see that workshop coming out, or you can just watch it later. So YouTube will send it out to you. So make sure you do that. Also, the Measurement Marketing Toolbox. If you're not yet a Measurement Marketing Toolbox member, you don't have your free membership. There's Workshop Wednesday, which of course is this workshop that we have back there. You also get Traffic Tracking Toolkit, Google Analytics Report Card. There's 40 some odd tools back there now, completely free. That's our way of helping build the community. So if you are at all interested in learning more about measurement marketing, whether it's the strategy side of things, whether it's the more technical aspects like what we talked about today, or maybe just getting started in beginner stuff, there's something back there for each level in the Measurement Marketing Toolbox. It is completely free to join. Just go to measure.tips/WW. You can open up a new tab in your browser, type in measure.tips/WW, and it'll take you right to there. There's also links in the description as well that'll help get you there. And then finally, and you already saw this page a few times during this particular broadcast, but the Measurement Marketing Academy is our paid flagship program. So if you are a professional, you want to get started on this, you want to learn, again, you're just starting out or you've been around the block a few times, you will learn something in the Measurement Marketing Academy. It comes with obviously a ton of courses, all of the different workshops, on-demand workshops we have, but also Ask Instructor support, which is kind of like having consultants on call. You can send us over videos and screenshots. We send over videos and screenshots back to you to help you get unstuck and all the way. And there's just a lot back there. The winner circle, so much more than we have time to talk about here, but measure.tips/getacademy will take you directly to that page so you can learn all about the fun stuff there. And with that, we'll bring this one officially to a close. Thanks for watching Beyond Basics, working with the Google Tag Manager preview mode. Appreciate you watching this workshop, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.